You're a nuisance, so go to an orphanage. Those were the unbelievable words that my stepmother Tiffany said to me. Her boyfriend Kyle also seemed to find this amusing and was laughing, saying, "Orphanage, orphanage." Earlier, Tiffany had dragged me out of the car's back seat and made me sit in front of an orphanage building. "Tiffany, why are you doing this?" "Shut up. I'm giving up being your mom. You can just cry here and pathetically try to gain sympathy. If you're lucky, some kind person will help you." I was left alone, at a loss, as the car drove away. When I was left alone, I felt a wave of regret and anxiety, and tears welled up in my eyes. Looking back, I think I had been holding back tears even when I was sad. I figured that in this situation, it wouldn't be embarrassing to cry. I buried my face in my arms and sobbed. I was filled with anxiety about the future. I don't know how long I was there. It seemed like it was getting dark. That day marked a sudden and drastic change in my destiny. My name is Mary James. In my area, a coming-of-age ceremony is held for those who have turned 20, which I just did. I had been preparing for this day. I was dressed in a furusode, a formal dress with a traditional pattern handed down to me from someone dear. It was a mix of fresh feelings and old memories. I want to look back on my life so far. Looking back, my life was intense from the moment I was born. My biological mother passed away right after giving birth to me. My father, George, raised me single-handedly with great care. My father had been focused solely on work until then and knew nothing about housework or childcare, but he apparently made a considerable effort. I don't remember feeling dissatisfied with my life with my father. I think it was because every day was so fulfilling and happy that I didn't even have time to think about wanting a mother like other families had.
"Mary, where do you want to go this weekend?"
I want to go to the zoo."
"All right, that's a promise then."
My father often used the word promise and always kept them. He never cut corners, even when dealing with a child. When my father said promise, he would keep it no matter what. And if he couldn't keep it due to unavoidable circumstances, he would sincerely apologize, just like he would to an adult. There was a warm atmosphere between my father and me, based on a relationship of trust. I learned what it means for people to interact with each other by watching my father's attitude. My father was truly teaching me through his actions. My father held an important position at his company and was financially well off, so he raised me without any hardship. He apparently didn't want me to feel ashamed because I was being raised by a single parent.
"Mary, I want you to take singing lessons."
"Okay. I'll see you next week. It's a promise, okay?" My father provided me with fine clothes and belongings and generously allowed me to take lessons. The chorus lessons I started this way would greatly influence my life. However, when I was 8, my father fell ill. I remember how painful it was to see my father getting thinner and thinner. Eventually, my father decided to stay in the hospital, following his doctor's recommendation. My aunt, my father's older sister, came to help, but life became inconvenient. She seemed to be a busy person and had almost no interaction with my father. Even so, she seemed to make time to come and help because there was a small child. I felt apologetic for being under her care. In fact, I haven't seen my aunt since then. More than that, I was grateful to the nurse, Tiffany, who diligently took care of my father at the hospital. One time, when I went to visit, Tiffany was cleaning my father's dishes and kindly spoke to him. "Mr. James, you were able to eat a little more today. Eat a lot and get well soon."
"At this age, I never thought I'd be taken care of like this. It's embarrassing. But you're so kind that I can't help but rely on you."
Even while suffering from his illness, my father started to open up to Tiffany little by little. Eventually, he declared that he would be discharged from the hospital and remarry Tiffany at the same time. Tiffany knows everything about me, was my father's favorite phrase at the time. He probably meant that she had taken care of him down to the smallest detail. She was 27 at the time, which seemed too young from a child's perspective. But both my father and Tiffany seemed serious about it, so my concerns quickly faded. Tiffany apparently quit her job in anticipation of the wedding. Not only was she young, but she was also so beautiful that even I, as a woman, felt intimidated. I, who had never seen a young woman up close, was flustered. Suddenly, I would be living in the same house as Tiffany, sharing meals and daily life with her. It was a new experience for me. However, a shadow began to fall over our new life. My father was often away on business, and during those times, Tiffany gradually started to neglect me. "Hey, Mommy, can you take me to the zoo this Sunday?" "Oh, Sunday? No, I can't. I have plans that day." "But Daddy's busy too." "He told you to ask Mommy, didn't he? Why is he so inconsiderate?" "Never mind. No means no. Go by yourself." My father would have surely kept his promise. Tiffany was impossible to talk to. Eventually, Tiffany started to say things like this: "I'm tired. I can't move. He's not staying overnight tonight. You make dinner today." "I can't do that." "You're 8 years old, and you can't even cook one dish? You really are useless, aren't you? Your dad must have failed at raising you. After all, living in such a big house and acting like a spoiled princess." When my father wasn't around, Tiffany was irritable, and her sarcasm was terrible. "What did you eat when it was just you and Dad? Your dad made the meals." "He's good at it. I'm still small, so he says it's dangerous for me to use knives or fire." "Oh, he pampered you. Does he think it's okay for this kid to grow up not being able to do anything? That's why men are useless when it comes to raising children." Since my father wouldn't be home for dinner, I had to do something about food. I tried my best to think of dishes I could make, taking various things out of the cupboards. However, while I was fiddling with things in the kitchen, I dropped a plate and broke it. Hearing the loud noise, Tiffany came running into the kitchen. "Hey, you! Are you helping, or just getting in the way? Clean up the mess yourself, okay?" "I'm sorry. But Mommy, can you help me?" "Shut up. Why do I have to help you? You broke it, so it's your responsibility. Do it yourself." I was shocked by her harsh tone. I was in shock from breaking the plate and confused about what to do, and tears welled up in my eyes. The plate I broke was a precious memento of my late mother, a very fine piece, as my father had told me. Tiffany didn't care about my feelings at all. "You're so clumsy. You're useless. You won't amount to anything in the future." "I'm sorry I broke the plate. Please help me clean it up." "I don't know. I'm going out." Tiffany disappeared, saying just that. She said she couldn't move, but she went out to play. When Tiffany did that, she would always put on a lot of perfume, so it was easy to tell. Even without her physical presence, the strong scent lingering in the entryway was proof enough. I sat on the kitchen floor and somehow managed to clean up the broken plate. Tears kept falling because I had broken something my mother had cherished. 2 days later, my father found a shard I had missed while walking in the kitchen. "Tiffany, what's this? It looks like the plate your mother cherished." "Oh, Mr. Smith. Actually, the other day, Mary was playing around with the plate, throwing it like a frisbee, and she broke it. Even when I warned her, she just ignored me and laughed. Why did she turn out to be such a tomboy?" "What? That happened? Come here, Mary. We need to talk." I did my best to deny it, but they wouldn't believe a child's words. My usually gentle father had an unusually stern expression. "Mary, you know that your mother cherished that plate, don't you? Why would you do something like breaking it while playing around?" "Dad, That's not what happened. I didn't do that. The more I talked, the more powerless my words became. From my father's perspective, it would be natural to believe his wife over his child.
So you're saying Tiffany is lying? There's no way that would happen. I could forgive you if you accidentally broke it, but to use it to play and break it is unforgivable. I didn't raise you to be a child who makes excuses.
Hey, Dad, please understand. It's true. I accidentally broke it. In the end, it was decided that I had broken the plate, and my father scolded me severely. I was deeply hurt by my father's unusual expression.
I never thought Mary would lie to try and get out of trouble. Maybe I failed as a parent, too.
That's not true, Dad. Please, believe me.
Dad doesn't want to talk to liars. Go and reflect on your actions by yourself.
Behind my father, Tiffany was smirking and looking at me. To me, her expression looked like that of a witch or something. Eventually, perhaps to avoid these kinds of troubles, I started to silently leave the house when my father was away on overnight trips. My father seemed concerned about leaving the house empty, but he hadn't given up, thinking it was necessary for making a living. Apparently, he was putting a lot of money into the house. It was routine for Tiffany to go out and for me to come home from school around the same time. Mom, where were you?
None of your business. Oh, my head hurts. Bring me some water.
I have to go to school, too.
Who do you think is supporting you? I'm telling you to bring me water.
When Tiffany was like this, she smelled strongly of perfume, alcohol, and cigarettes. She must have been out having fun somewhere. She seemed to think it was a waste of time to deal with the child, and all I got for dinner was a single pastry.
Ugh, having to prepare bread every time is such a pain. Why are kids so much work? I thought one girl would be fine, but it was a miscalculation.
By then, I had developed the strength not to give in to Tiffany's sarcasm. I would stand tall and say this: Tiffany, I can do things myself now. It's okay. Just leave me alone. Eventually, as I got older, I was allowed to cook. It was easy to cook better than Tiffany, and another change came about. I started looking forward to the times when Tiffany was away. On nights when Tiffany wasn't home, I wouldn't get scolded for doing what I wanted, and the food was delicious. For any child in a family with both parents, it would be unthinkable to leave a 10-year-old home alone. But I learned to spend nights alone and go to school by the time I was 10. Children around this age have a bit of longing to be able to do everything themselves. Some of my friends even said they were envious of my situation. When Tiffany wasn't there, I could use cheap ingredients and cook creatively, so I could eat my fill and actually be happier. I couldn't bring myself to hide these feelings. Of course, it was true that being alone with my father was the best. I hated spending time with the three of us, covered in lies, or being forced to be tense with just Tiffany and me. Another fun thing for me was my weekly Saturday chorus lessons. Bye, Dad. I'm off.
Have a good time. Be careful on the road. And greet your teachers properly, okay?
I would leave the house, shouldering my father's usual words of caution. I would take the bus by myself to the city center and receive training from a famous teacher. I was happy to be away from Tiffany and to be able to sing my heart out here. At home, I would get annoyed for just talking normally. I found my own place in this way. But even here, I ran into trouble. My father's health took a turn for the worse again, and he was hospitalized. As a former nurse, it would be Tiffany's time to shine. I thought she would provide devoted care, as she had done before. But Tiffany rarely visited the house or the hospital. Where's Mom? Didn't she come home today?
She seems to be out.
I couldn't tell him that she came home drunk when he wasn't around. I just kept it to myself as a child.
Mary, can you ask Mom to come with you next time you visit? Your dad misses seeing her face.
Okay, I'll ask her. But Tiffany never came to visit my father. Without his wife around, his health rapidly declined. It was heartbreaking to see how much he suffered. Eventually, the saddest day of my life arrived. My father passed away. While I was visiting and talking to him, he suddenly started to struggle. I frantically called for a nurse, but my father looked like he was in agony. His complexion turned pale, and as a child, I was kept away. I was told to wait in a separate room. The next time I entered the hospital room, my father was hooked up to tubes and surrounded by medical equipment. For a 10-year-old, it was too much to take in. Eventually, a machine beeped, signaling the end of my father's life. "Dad will get better soon, right?" By the time the doctors explained each event to me, and I understood, tears were overflowing. People were moving around busily. When I was asked where my mother was, I could only answer that I didn't know. Eventually, the arrangements for the wake and funeral began. I was just at a loss for what to do. Relatives told me I should stay with my mother since I was still young, trying to be considerate. But Tiffany was reeking of alcohol and seemed very lethargic. Honestly, it seemed better to be with the adults, helping with the wake preparations, than to be with Tiffany. Somehow, the wake and funeral were over, and I finally had time to spend at home. I couldn't believe what had happened in the past few days, and I just sat there in my room, dazed. "Hey you, come here." I wondered what she wanted, and went to the living room. Tiffany was standing next to a young man. Tiffany herself was quite young, but this man was even younger, looking like a student. "Stop calling me Mom. I'm not your mom, and I never will be. I'm going to remarry this guy, Kyle, right away." "Remarry?" I repeatedly confirmed the meaning of the word remarry in my head. "So that means you're going to marry that person?" I asked hesitantly to confirm. Tiffany smirked and patted Kyle on the shoulder. "Yeah, he's pretty dumb, just like you. He can't even do anything properly." "Well, I'm still in my first year of working, and I don't want to suddenly become a father. Get rid of the nuisance somewhere." Seeing the two of them having fun, I realized that I had no place here. Their relationship seemed like it had been going on for more than just a day or two. In other words, they had been secretly getting closer while my father was still alive. Tiffany had probably been going out to see Kyle all this time. That must be why she drank and partied while my father was suffering from his illness. That said, now that my father was gone, if I was thrown out, a 10-year-old like me would be lost immediately. There was no one I could rely on nearby. As if reading my mind, Tiffany smirked. "All right, get ready to go out. Get in the car." "Could it be the zoo?" "Who knows? You'll find out. Now hurry up." They seemed to be willing to spend time with me. That would be uncomfortable, but at least I would have a roof over my head and food to eat. Where were they taking me? I was a little excited. A small pouch was placed in my lap as I sat in the back seat. It was something my father had made for me a long time ago. Eventually, the car stopped in front of a large building. "Where is this?" It didn't look like a zoo. I was confused by the unfamiliar large building. The next moment, Tiffany pulled me out of the back seat and made me sit in front of the building. "Mom, why are you doing this?" "Shut up. I'm giving up being your mom. You can just cry here and pathetically try to gain sympathy. If you're lucky, some kind person will help you." I was overwhelmed by Tiffany's intensity. She was yelling loudly, as if trying to blow something away. "Why can't we live together anymore?" "Of course we can't. I have Kyle now. We're going to live a life of luxury, using the house and vacation home your father left behind. Oh, I can't wait for our new life. You're a nuisance, so go to an orphanage." Kyle also seemed to find this amusing and was laughing, saying, "Orphanage, orphanage." But you know, just leaving a kid like this in front of an orphanage isn't going to do much. They'll just be abandoned. Well, it's not my problem.
That's fine. It is what it is. See, I even gave her a little pouch. That's my kindness. Hopefully someone will pick her up. They were going to abandon me without hesitation, and their expressions were terribly cheerful. Eventually, they got into the car. I was left alone, at a loss, as the car drove away. When I was left alone, I felt a wave of regret and anxiety, and tears welled up in my eyes. I realized that I had finally lost my family. Looking back, I think I had been holding back tears, even when I was sad. I figured that in this situation, it wouldn't be embarrassing to cry. I buried my face in my arms, clutched the pouch tightly, and sobbed. All I had with me now was this pouch and a thin coat. If the harsh winter came, I wouldn't be able to survive. I was filled with anxiety about the future. I don't know how long I was there. It seemed like it was getting dark. "What are you doing here?" Someone called out to me in a soothing, gentle voice. I looked up, but my vision was blurred with tears, and I couldn't see the person's face. Anyway, I had to answer. "My mom abandoned me." The person seemed very surprised. "You married James, aren't you? Do you recognize me? I'm Nancy Hunter from the choir." "Huh?" I rubbed my eyes many times. Standing there was Miss Hunter, the teacher of the choir I looked forward to every week. "Miss Hunter, why are you here?" "That doesn't matter. You said your mother abandoned you? Is that true?" "Yes, it's true. Since Dad passed away, Mom said she's going to live with someone new. So I became a nuisance." "I see." Ms. Hunter thought for a long time. Eventually she spoke. "Anyway, come to my house for tonight. We can talk more comfortably in a warm room." I felt relieved that I had found a place to stay for the night. It turned out that Tiffany had said that as soon as the conditions were right, she would file the marriage registration with Kyle. In hindsight, there was a 6-month remarriage prohibition period for women, so she was probably planning to wait that out and get married as soon as possible. I ended up being caught in Tiffany's selfish life plan. Ms. Hunter's car was warm, with a fluffy seat and elegant music playing. Sitting in the passenger seat, I cried again. Ms. Hunter watched over me. "It must have been tough, Mary." "It's okay. Let's take it easy at my house tonight." We eventually arrived at Ms. Hunter's house. Besides being a choir member, she also gave private lessons at home. It was a cute, Western style with a sign that said music school. I was led inside and given a warm drink. My husband and I are 50 years old, and we've given up on having children. But sometimes we go to facilities like today and volunteer for children without parents. We meet up when we have the time. Oh, it sounds like my husband is back. There was the sound of a car, and a man entered the house. Her husband looked a little surprised, but after hearing Miss Hunter's explanation, he seemed to understand and smiled. It was a gentle smile that reminded me of my father. As I calmed down and looked around, the whole space felt like the home where I used to live with my father, filled with a warm atmosphere. After a long time, I felt like I had found my place, and I was happy. That night, I was given a fluffy bed and was able to sleep without any worries. From that day on, Miss Hunter did everything she could to help me. I was able to spend my time peacefully, even though it was a complicated time, being in the upper grades of elementary school. Miss Hunter was a specialist in teaching music to children. She knew not only about music, but also about child psychology. I was able to feel safe and rely on Miss Hunter. 2 years later, the house phone started ringing incessantly. If you didn't answer, it would stop, but then it would immediately start ringing again. It was unsettling. It was what you would call a crank call nowadays. It was so noisy that I answered the phone. "Hello?" "Ah, you finally picked up." I could tell the person on the other end was a woman, but her voice was raspy, and I couldn't tell her age. I had no idea who it could be. "Hello? I'm Tiffany James. I was shocked. I never expected the person who abandoned me to call me. Aunt Tiffany, it's Mary here. Aunt, I'm still young, you know. I raised you for 2 years. You should have more respect. I was sure of it now. This way of speaking was definitely Tiffany's. Come to think of it, when she would come home after being out all night, she had a voice like this. If the person herself is on the phone, then this is quick. You were on TV yesterday, weren't you? It was replayed many times on the news. Oh, you mean that? I continued to be a member of the choir, and the other day, I performed at a concert. It was a famous artist backing chorus. It was a high-profile concert, so there was TV coverage, and I happened to be shown in a close-up. I found out about it on the news the next day. You must be earning a lot, being in such a place. I was surprised. Since you were on TV, I quickly looked up the choir and contacted your teacher's house. I was going to ask her for your whereabouts, but since you answered the phone directly, this is easier. You owe me, right? Use the money you're earning to take care of me. I couldn't be bothered to respond. Fine. I'm nearby. I'm coming over, so wait for me. She hung up the phone. After a while, I heard a car. I went to the front door with trepidation. A woman got out of a car that was parked in the middle of the road. She slammed the door loudly and walked towards me with large strides. A music school, huh? How pretentious and annoying. I don't appreciate you insulting my respected teacher, I retorted, unable to hold back. I was abandoned by you. I was picked up by my chorus teacher that day. I've been living here ever since. So it all worked out for you. You managed to gain the sympathy of a wealthy person. Good for you, finding a place to live. Tiffany, who was saying this, looked terrible. Her face was swollen, and her complexion was bad. Due to days and nights of drinking and smoking, her throat was damaged, and now she had a raspy voice, unbecoming of her age. Her skin was rough, and her once beautiful appearance was gone. When was the last time I was captivated by Tiffany's beauty? However, I rationalized it. It was only 2 years ago. Her transformation was pitiful. Seeing our exchange at the entrance, Miss Hunter came out of her room. What's going on? Who are you? Before Tiffany could answer, I spoke up, not wanting to involve my precious person in this mess, even as a child. Miss Hunter, please go inside. This is my problem. This auntie keeps calling earlier. She looked up your contact information and address and came here. I'm sorry, Miss Hunter. This person used to be my dad's wife. Oh, is that who this is? Well, okay. I wanted to hear her side of the story, too. I was hoping to meet you once, but I didn't expect it to be like this. Miss Hunter, be careful. This auntie seems dangerous. Coming all the way here after finding out your contact information and address from your website? Miss Hunter gave private music lessons, so her home address was listed on her website. I never imagined that someone would misuse it like this. Hey you, stop calling me auntie. That old hag next to you is way older. Don't be so rude. My mother is this person here. Huh? Tiffany was stunned. Calling Miss Hunter mother seemed to have caught her off guard. I became a member of this family. Miss Hunter is my family now. I don't want some stranger interfering. That's impossible. I never gave permission. Taking a child without the mother's permission is unthinkable. Or is this old hag after money, too? Miss Hunter explained, taking pity on Tiffany, who was using such vulgar language. Mary's father has passed away. You didn't go through the proper adoption procedures when you married him, did you? Therefore, legally speaking, you and Mary are strangers. We can legally adopt her without your permission. I don't want to hear your complicated excuses. You must have tricked this child. You're probably planning to exploit her for money, right? When you get older, You start worrying about retirement, you see.
Miss Hunter frowned. She seemed to be in disbelief that Tiffany could say such things. To think that there were people in the world with such twisted hearts who would think of an innocent child as a means to an end.
I have no such intentions. Mary is my precious family,
Miss Hunter stated clearly. Her firm tone seemed to have gotten through to Tiffany, who then became agitated.
Don't act all innocent. You're probably making this kid sing and making money off her, right? How much did you get from that concert? Hand it over already.
No. The concert is just a hobby. The concert was a collaboration that happened because the artist and I are personal friends. The proceeds are going to charity.
Stop lying. You must be hiding your profits. Women like you are the greediest behind the scenes.
Tiffany and Miss Hunter's conversation was going nowhere. Even the usually calm Miss Hunter was showing signs of irritation. Please stop with the vulgar language. It's not good for Mary either. Miss Hunter was right, but that was just who Tiffany was. This is what it means to live in different worlds, I thought. Then, as if she had just thought of it, Tiffany started making a fuss.
Oh, right. You snatched this child's money pouch. You took her home because you realized what was in it, didn't you?
Please, don't say such absurd things. After moving in with Miss Hunter, I remembered the pouch that Tiffany had given me. I thought it might have contained a favorite toy or something, but when I opened it, there was a bank book inside, and one bank statement. Tiffany, despite her character, had given me a bank book in my name. If it had been Tiffany's personally, she likely would have taken the bank book for herself. However, the PIN for that account was a secret number between my late father and me. Tiffany probably tried to take it out, but couldn't access the account. We did check the contents of the pouch. There was a bank book inside, and the account contained your father's inheritance. We thought Mary was too young to handle such a large sum of money, so we've been managing it for her.
See, you did take it. You must have used it all up by now, haven't you? You're all the same. You can't resist money.
Tiffany was spitting as she spoke, but Miss Hunter firmly shook her head. I asked her, bewildered, "Did you think about nothing but money the whole time we lived together?"
What are you talking about?
I overheard you talking on the phone right after Dad passed away. As a nurse, you were stealing patient information and looking for wealthy people, right? That's why you targeted Dad.
You heard that?
Tiffany fell silent, probably not expecting me to say that. Miss Hunter was pale with anger.
I'll say this without holding back. You're despicable. Using your position as a nurse to find a way to make money? Nurses are supposed to be respectable professionals. Don't you have any pride in your profession?
Huh. Tiffany snorted and glared at Miss Hunter.
Oh, shut up, you pretentious hag. You're a good match for this kid. What's pride? It's useless. It's not worth a dime.
I could easily understand Tiffany's feelings. I don't think she has any pride. This woman was after my dad's money. I don't want to admit it, but that's the truth. Because you're a swindler, you can't trust other people, right? How sad. There are miserable people in this world, aren't there? You targeted not only my father, but also viewers after seeing me on TV, huh? When we were living together, you only talked about money. When Dad and I were together, we never talked about money. But when you were around, it was always about money. I frowned. Miss Hunter seemed to have realized something from my reaction. You've had a terrible life, haven't you? Even now, why are you in such a disheveled state? Ever since I came here, Mary has never said anything bad about you. She told me you were a beautiful woman. But why are you so...
Are you saying I'm ugly now? I hate women like you, pretending to be all refined. I bet I could land a blow on that stuck-up face of yours.
Please, do it if you want. No matter what you do, I will never yield to you. Miss Hunter's dignified and righteous attitude was truly that of a respectable adult. As I listened to her next to me, I felt my own posture straighten. But of course, it didn't get through to Tiffany. She turned to us, her displeasure clear.
Yeah, you're all talk. You must be making a lot of money running this music school, and you've got this kid, so you don't have to worry about your old age. You're such a sly woman. You should have just cried and run to me. If you had stayed by my side, even while acting pitifully, that would have been better.
Absolutely not. You had a boyfriend, remember? There was no room for me. And I wouldn't want to be with you anyway.
I unintentionally became confrontational. She had laughed and abandoned me. How could she even say such a thing? I can still remember how I felt when I was left in front of the orphanage. That pain will probably never heal. Then Tiffany made a face of even greater displeasure than before. Boyfriend? You mean Kyle? He's gone somewhere.
Huh? He dumped you? You remarried him after my dad, right?
To me, it was unexpected. Tiffany was certainly the worst in terms of personality, but she and Kyle seemed like a good match. My marriage with Kyle didn't even last a year. I inherited the house and the vacation home from your father, but I couldn't manage them and had to let them go. They were both too big, and I couldn't handle them. Then Kyle left me too. He was only after my inheritance. He's now engaged to the daughter of some big shot at the same company. He's so obvious, isn't he? Even though he was just my boyfriend. To my question, Tiffany complained as if it were a nuisance. Kyle was just fresh out of college, like a student. But for Kyle, it was a case of the money running out and the relationship ending.
I see. It's the same as when you married Dad for money, and this guy was also after your money.
I understood why Tiffany was in such a state. She had let go of her assets and lost her young husband, which led to days of heavy drinking. As expected, there was no room for sympathy for Tiffany, who had a history of enjoying nightlife. She had lived her life thinking only about money, using people as a means to get money, and discarding them when they were no longer needed. Her current state was the result of that lifestyle. So for me, at the age of 12, it was the first time I'd ever looked at a person with such cold eyes. And the fact that it was directed at the person who had even for a short time raised me. In front of me, Tiffany was holding her head, lost in thought about what she had lost. Eventually, she moved her hands from her temples to her stomach, caressing it. Oh, this is bad. You, call an ambulance.
Are you trying to act, Auntie?
That's not it. I've been feeling off lately. It seems like it really has come to term. Tiffany's rough skin had turned pale, and she seemed to be breathing heavily. Miss Hunter also felt that something was wrong. She quickly called for an ambulance, and soon it arrived. Centering around Tiffany, Miss Hunter and I also got on board as attendants. Then, we went to a hospital that could take her. As a result of the examination, Tiffany had a serious illness due to her past unhealthy lifestyle. The test results showed abnormalities across the board. It seemed like a miracle that she had been able to stand and walk until now. Tiffany seemed calm and was sleeping in bed, but her breathing was rough and labored. Her insides must be in a far worse state. That was the last time I saw Tiffany. From here on, is what Miss Hunter told me after I turned 20. It might be time to tell Mary about what happened back then. It's okay. No matter what, I'll listen without getting surprised. Tiffany had been cut off from her parents due to her repeated pursuit of money. She had no one to rely on. I became her guarantor for her hospital stay. I had never heard such a story before. What kind of mother would look after the stepmother who abandoned her own child? Miss Hunter, you're too kind. You should have just left her alone. I couldn't do that, Miss Hunter said. She not only took care of the paperwork, but also occasionally visited the hospital and helped Tiffany with her personal needs. Even for Miss Hunter, it must have been a troublesome situation to get involved in, despite the circumstances. One time, when Mrs. Hunter went to the hospital, Tiffany was on the phone with someone. It was a no-call area, so I was about to warn her, but she had her back to me and seemed very distressed. Ms. Hunter had a distant look in her eyes
as if she were remembering something.
Yes, Kyle and I abandoned Mary, her daughter, in front of an orphanage. Kyle thought it was funny and encouraged me to do it. I didn't intend to go that far. Anyway, Kyle is a terrible man. He just abandons little kids so easily.
Tiffany confessed of her and her ex-husband's wrongdoings to someone over the phone. Tiffany quickly said what she wanted to say and hung up. When Miss Hunter noticed that she was being watched, Tiffany made a bitter face, the likes of which Miss Hunter had never seen before. It was horrifying. It seemed that Tiffany was calling Kyle's workplace and exposing the wrongdoings from when they were married. She probably felt desperate and wanted to drag him down with her, knowing that her own body wasn't healthy anymore. That sounds like something she would do. She wouldn't want to be the only one to fall. Miss Hunter later heard that Kyle was dumped by the daughter of a company executive after it was revealed that he had abandoned me. Apparently, Tiffany told Miss Hunter about it with a triumphant look. Miss Hunter saw Tiffany for the last time after that. No one knows where Tiffany went after she was discharged. It seems that Tiffany showed signs of wanting to see me right before she was discharged, but Miss Hunter firmly refused. She apparently even threatened to sue Tiffany if she tried to contact me, as it would negatively affect me. Tiffany was probably intimidated by her threat. I haven't encountered Tiffany since I was 12. I was being protected by Miss Hunter, even in this regard. Furthermore, Miss Hunter gave me something when I turned 20. Here you go. What's this? Oh, that pouch from back then. Before me, a handmade pouch with a familiar design. I've kept it as it was. Your bank account contained the inheritance from your father, right? I asked you for the PIN once before. I've been managing that money for the past 10 years. When I opened the bank book, I saw that it contained a fortune far greater than the original amount. Miss Hunter? No, Mom. Thank you so much for everything. It's rare for you to call me Mom. Because you're my teacher, Mom is a more special title than that. Thanks to Miss Hunter's thoughtfulness, I had acquired an irreplaceable asset. Thanks to that, I'm still able to enjoy my weekends even now. Mary, I have the new sheet of music ready for everyone. Yes, I understand. I'm now working as an assistant for Miss Hunter's choir. Living with Miss Hunter allowed me to practice music more, and my talent apparently blossomed. I think Miss Hunter's influence was a major factor in helping me develop my skills, though. Anyway, I now attend a music college, and have reached a point where I can help with music lessons. Miss Hunter, who let me study what I love freely, is truly like a parent to me. I'm deeply grateful to Miss Hunter, just as I am to my real father. When I close my eyes, I often see the smiling faces of the children going home, saying, "Goodbye, Miss Hunter." The moments when I connect with the children are the most healing of all. Before I knew it, the children started calling me teacher too. I'm no longer considered a child and have fully entered adulthood. And now, the coming of age ceremony is about to begin right in front of me. I'm excited to meet my classmates, all dressed up in colorful formal attire. But I secretly think my attire is the most beautiful. That's because I'm wearing a kimono that Ms. Hunter wore when she came of age, making it the most special one for me. When Miss Hunter offered to let me wear this, I felt a sense of responsibility as an adult, and it was a very sobering moment. I'm determined to start fresh and do my best, starting with today's ceremony. In the future, I want to become a great instructor like Miss Hunter and guide people. I intend to continue making every effort to achieve that goal.